Lawyer for Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene said this week she was not a participant in the January 6th violence. She was a victim. There were text messages revealed this week in which she was discussing martial law with Mark Meadows, then Chief of Staff. Do you need to ask her a few questions?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to ask her a few questions. We know some things. I won't confirm or deny the text messages, of course, but let me just say this. For Marjorie Taylor Greene to say she's a victim, it's amazing how, folks like her attack everybody for being a victim. I mean, she assaulted, I think, a survivor's family from a school shooting at some point in D.C. She stood outside a congresswoman's office and yelled at her through a mail slot and said she was too scared to come out and confront her. And then when Marjorie Taylor Greene is confronted, she's all of a sudden a victim and a poor, helpless congresswoman that's just trying to do her job. That's insane. We want the information. Look, history is not going to judge her or people like her that are buying the big lie well. I firmly believe that.
This is Adam Kinzinger, a member of the January 6th committee, shutting down pretty decisively the suggestion from the Marjorie Taylor Greene folks that when it comes to January 6th, she's somehow the victim here. That claim was actually surfaced by Greene's lawyer during a hearing a couple of weeks ago.
Our country's elected leaders were victimized right here in the very halls of Congress. Representative Greene was a victim of this attack. Her life was in danger, she thought. She was scared and confused. Her children were frantic about what was going on and feared for her safety.
Right, because Greene was a victim at the hands of a crowd that was doing the exact thing that Greene incited it to do. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And to build on what Kinzinger mentioned, while we're on the topic of Greene crying victim, remind me, was she also the victim when she chased down David Hogg, a high school student who'd survived a mass shooting?
Can't defend your stance? How did you get over 30 appointments with senators? How'd you do that? How did you get major press coverage on this issue? And how did you get kids? Why do you use kids? Why kids? You know, if school zones were protected with security guards with guns, there would be no mass shootings at schools. Do you know that? The best way to stop a bad guy with a gun is with a good guy with a gun. But yet you're attacking our Second Amendment. And you have nothing to say. No words.
Or what about AOC when she creepily tried to lure her out of her congressional office?
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I'm an American citizen. I pay your salary through the taxes that you collect from me through the IRS because I'm a tax-paying citizen of the United States. I'm a woman, I'm a female business owner, and I'm proud to be an American woman. And I do not support your socialist policies, and I do not support your murderous abortion policies. As a mother of 3 children, I'm appalled at New York's law for abortion, and it needs to end and it needs to stop now. You're bringing God's judgment on our country, and I'm against it, as well as my friends. So you need to stop being a baby and stop locking your door and come out and face the American citizens that you serve. If you want to be a big girl, you need to get rid of your diaper and come out and be able to talk to the American citizens instead of us having to use a flap, a little flap.
It's kind of like her. She's kind of
sad.
Flappy. She's like, she keeps flapping her gums.
Oh, flappy.
Okay, well,
this is like child games.
This is child games.
In other words, while Greene might cry victim, she has a long history of proving that she's anything but. But more importantly, pay attention to what Kinzinger hinted at, that while the January 6th committee would love to ask her a few questions, that they, quote, know some things, which doesn't exactly portend well for Greene. Why? Because considering what we already know, which is damning unto itself, if the committee knows more, then that is a really bad sign for Greene. Because remember, the information we have now is already enough to end her career. She violated Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which prohibits members of Congress from engaging in insurrection. That was precisely what Marjorie Taylor Greene did. And don't take my word for it, I'm sure you've seen this clip before, but on the off chance that you haven't, take a listen to what Marjorie Taylor Greene was telling all of those Trump acolytes in the days leading up to the insurrection.
America re-elected Donald J. Trump for 4 more years. You can't allow it to just transfer power peacefully like Joe Biden wants and allow him to become our president because he did not win this election. It's being stolen and the evidence is there. There's a large group of us. We're organizing an effort to object to the Electoral College votes for Joe Biden in key states where there's real evidence that this election has been stolen. I am very convicted in what we're going to be doing on January 6th, and it's historic, and I feel it's very, very important. On January 6th, if you're able, there are going to be possibly 1 million or more people coming to Washington to be there for this historic event. It's critical for everyone to show up and show the nation who we are. We aren't a people that are going to go quietly into the night. We are not a people that are going to be thrust into socialism without stopping it.
So she told her supporters not to allow a peaceful transfer of power. And what happened on January 6th? What was the entire point of January 6th? To stop the peaceful transfer of power by blocking the certification of electoral votes. She called for it, she broadcast it publicly and explicitly. She helped incite the insurrection, and then when the insurrection that she helped incite actually happened, now suddenly she's absolving herself of any and all guilt for it? I get that she doesn't want to take responsibility now that prosecutors are looking to hold those involved in the planning of January 6th accountable, but she made her bed, now she has to lie in it. The January 6th committee seems to be making sure of exactly that. To see more videos like this, click the subscribe button right here on this screen. And if you want to support my work, subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. I cover the most important stories each week, and my guest is always one of the top political figures, including Vice President Kamala Harris, Jen Psaki, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Nancy Pelosi, Katie Porter, Cory Booker, and so many more. The podcast link is also right here on this screen, so give it a listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.